Alright, today is ELR 1.5. We'll be identifying different angle pairs and using their relationship to find the angle measurements. Okay, so the first type of angle relationship is called a linear pair of angles. This should be going in your notebook. A linear pair of angles are two adjacent angles. So that means that these angles need to be next to each other. Adjacent angles. Whose non-common sides, so the sides that they're not sharing, form opposite rays. So if you look at that picture below, these are two adjacent angles. They are sharing this common side. These are the non-common sides, so they are opposite rays. Linear pair of angles are supplementary. And who knows what supplementary is? That means two angles that add up to 180. Okay, so for this first example, to find out x, we know they are a linear pair. They're laying on a straight line there. We do 180 minus 112, we get 68 degrees. Let's take a look at this word problem right here. So one angle is going to be our x. The other angle is 3 times that x. It's a linear pair, so we're going to add them up to 180 and solve the equation. I get my x to be 45. I plug it back in, and I got both angles to be 45 degrees and 135 degrees. Okay, another relationship for angles is something called vertical angles. You could think of it as one of two different definitions. Two angles whose sides form two pairs of opposite rays, or a pair of non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. Vertical angles are equal. They are congruent. One thing I like to tell students, is that vertical angles are opposite of each other. So this 72 degrees is vertical to this one over here, which is 72 degrees. Okay, the example there is saying that angle ABC and DBE are vertical angles. Find the measure of the angles. So that means these two angles are equal. So you make them equal, you solve for x, you get your x to be 9. Plug it back into both angles, which should be the same. You get 55 degrees for both pair of vertical angles. All right, another pair of relationship of angles is complementary angles. It's two angles with the sum of 90 degrees. They can be next to each other, adjacent or non-adjacent. Here in this picture, they're adjacent. So what's left out of the 90 degrees from 15 degrees? 90 minus 15, 75 degrees. For the next example, we're going to take these two angles because they're complementary and add them up to equal 90. I get my x to equal 7. Now I'm going to plug that into both angles. So I got the first angle, LMN is 26, PQR is 64, and yep, when I do add them up, they add up to 90 degrees. Okay, another pair relationship is called supplementary angles. Two angles with a sum of 180. Two angles that add up to 180. They can be adjacent or non-adjacent. So here, what's left from 120 degrees from 180? 60 degrees. Let's take a look at this example and see if you can figure out how to write it representing it in algebra. All right, so I represented one angle as x, and then it says 36 degrees less than the measure of the angle, so x minus 36. We know they're supplementary, so they add up to 180. So I get x to be 108, plug it back in, so this angle is 108. And this one is 108 minus 36, which is 72 degrees. All right, so here they're asking us is angle AFB. I'm gonna make that in red. Is a vertical angle to EFD. I'll do that one in blue. So if you remember the definition that we put, it says a pair of non-adjacent angles, they are non-adjacent, formed by two intersecting lines. Are these lines intersecting? Well, A to D, but B to E are not completely intersecting. That ray there is kind of off, so these are not vertical angles. Okay, here is a picture of different angles. Here they are actually numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are many different possible answers. Let's name a pair of adjacent angles. Adjacent angles could be angle 1 and angle 2. We could also have angle 2 is adjacent to angle 3. We could also have angle 3 adjacent to angle 4. 4 is adjacent to angle 5. All right, vertical angles, be careful. Again, it's a pair of non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. So if we take a look at these two intersecting lines, what are the non-adjacent angles located on them? 3 and 5. So 3 and 5 are vertical angles. Congruent angles is the ones with the little red tick marks there. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And we also know that vertical angles are congruent. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 5. All right, here's a picture of angles. What does an angle bisector do to an angle? So if you notice here, ray AY is bisects AY, this one right here, is bisecting angle XAZ. So that means angle XAY is equal to angle YAZ. Okay, let's make a picture of this problem. We have a ray bisecting this angle. I already drew it there below. So that means that this angle here is equal to this angle here. They gave us what the two amounts are in algebra with a variable. So we're going to make them equal to each other and solve it for x because those two angles are equal. I get x to be 8, plug it in. I get both of them to be 10 degrees.